Hi, super friends. Welcome to the rabbit hole that we call Supernormal,
where we delve into all the parapop culture topics that you love.
So throw on that aluminum foil hat, get the popcorn ready, and make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and bell notification to let you know when new episodes of Supernormal drop.
Sit back, listen with an open mind.
Enjoy the show. Hi, everybody. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
It's another episode of Supernormal Podcast with a special guest. Karen Rontowski's here. We're so excited.
I am happy to be here, you guys.
Hi,
you know
Karen.
what? It was so funny. Matt and I were live and we were talking about all the great guests that we have coming on the podcast. And we try to be like a little bit of elusive and be like, we're not going to tell you. We're just going to give you a little tease. And we're like, we have this amazing woman on. She's like so good at tarot and like really funny. And like somebody came in the chat and was like, is it Karen Rontowski? And I was like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, I had to turn to Dana and say, can you shut your dirty mouth? Can you just not tell secrets? No, he guessed it.
Oh, well, the secret was that was really me. I was trying
to You go by Joe on your moonlighting.
Yeah.
I see.
in.
Shapeshifter.
Yes.
Well, welcome on. We're so excited to have you on.
It's so great to see you guys. And I told this to you before. I recommend you guys to everybody. It was the best when I did the mediumship with you and Matt. It was fantastic. I've pushed so many people your way, and I really admire you guys. It's really good.
Oh, thank you. You're awesome. Well, I'm going to plug you really quick, and then we'll get into your story. I got a tarot reading from you. Like, a lot of people might know you from TikTok because you post these really funny TikTok or these readings from your comedy shows where you read people for filth from the tarot. But what they may not know about you is you are a dead-on reader with your tarot cards. Like, you give phenomenal readings with your tarot cards. And it had to be like 3 or 4 years ago. You gave me it probably was like 4 or 5 years ago, actually. You gave me a reading with your tarot cards and you were like, you're going to teach mediumship and you're going to teach me mediumship someday. And I was like, okay, whatever. And ended up being a little accurate at that.
That.
So.
That's great. Oh, good.
Yeah. So
that's funny. I don't remember. Was I in New York or was I still in California when I read it?
You were in California.
Oh, good. Okay. So that was a while ago. Excellent. All right. I'm glad I didn't screw that one up.
Yeah.
This would have been an awkward podcast if she was like, she should not be in the business at all. She told me about a 3-headed man and crazy things.
Well, we'll get to that part later.
All right.
Well, it is super normal. We have 3-headed men here in the little back working in the office back there. So, hi, Logan.
Well, you have your podcast, Paranormal Karen, so there is more to you than just the tarot side of things. So how did you even step into all of this paranormal, psychic, tarot? Like, how did you get here?
Well, I like to think I have never really had, from the beginning, coming out of the chute, I think this was who I was. I was always interested in psychic stuff. There was always paranormal experiences in my house, and I was just a believer. In fact, I'm always shocked when people don't believe, when they have I don't understand it. But my real trade was to become a comedian. And I started doing that at 24. And I used to see this lady, I still call her my teacher. And I take her classes whenever she has one. And she said, you really need to get a tarot deck. And she would explain to me what she was doing as she was looking at it. And I thought, you know what, if I just learn everything about these cards, I'll be able to do this. And oddly enough, I was really working as a comedian. I brought them on stage before I had them as a business, which most people would have done it the opposite, like made sure they knew what they were doing before they got in front of an audience. But that was the way I did it. And then I was doing about 30 to 35 weeks a year on the road. And I was like, that's just too much. I wonder if I can start this as a business. So I started doing readings during the day, and then I do my shows at night, and both things just blossomed. But the psychic stand-up show that you guys see on TikTok, I have been going at that for like 20 years. And people, the bookers loved it. We couldn't get a crowd. People didn't know what it was. They were like, what is this, tarot readings or is it comedy? Like, it took forever. At one point, I was doing it with an animal communicator who was another comedian, great comedian. And we booked a show in Pennsylvania. I'm getting on the plane in LA, and they call me. The convention center we had booked was attached to a church. And when the church found out tarot cards were going to be there, the whole congregation called in and said, we're leaving if you let this happen. So we literally had to find a venue that day and move like 300 people to another. It was like, in the beginning, this was just like crazy. It's in the last 3 or 4 years that it really just kind of found its groove and is running. So that's how I got here.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah.
This is such but maybe this is going to take us to a different thing, because I was actually watching something about the Comedy Store being very haunted. Did you ever work there?
Yeah, it's ridiculously dark. That whole area, like underneath it, that there were tunnels. Before it was the Comedy Store, it was like a mob hangout, and they have this little place where you can look where the guy used to sit with the rifle and shoot people. I think it was called Sammy's. Was it Sammy's? But it's the darkest. Yeah, it's very, very dark. It's a really interesting place. If you ever get a chance to go, you'll feel the heavy when you get in there.
I want to go.
Hey, Megan, you want to go to the Comedy Store?
I mean, I would like to go. I'm in Southern California, so I could go. Karen, are you going to come back out so I can come?
You know what? I don't know. This is the craziest thing. I don't know where I'm going when I leave upstate New York. So I'm taking care of parents, young people watching. If you thought your parents ruined your childhood, wait till you see how they ruin your adulthood. It is. So I'm up there. I'm almost out. I think I'm going. I'm living in North Carolina for a month, and then I don't know where I'm going. I think I'm going to Nashville. But I will tell you, the Comedy Store is, I've been to haunted places all over the place, and just the heavy energy and the stories with Sam Kinison in there were crazy. Because, he always had that background anyways. He was a preacher, and then he kind of went the opposite. But that place, a lot of like literal activity. My friend was walking down the hall, and the window will start to go like this, like it'll just start rattling like she's there. And then they put a radio or a podcast thing in the basement, which was the worst place to put it. So there's all this EMF in there. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's pretty dark.
Interesting.
And it's horrible to park.
That's probably the worst part of it. Yeah.
That's why they decided to stay, because they once we got parking, we're not leaving.
Right, exactly. Their cars are still there. But yeah, it's quite interesting. The real history of it is fascinating. I started out in the Comedy Store in San Diego, which was kind of the same, but yeah, it's just so dark. But I have to tell you, there is nothing like where I live now. Like upstate New York. Are any of you guys New Yorkers or East Coasters?
I have family.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Massachusetts.
East
What part of Massachusetts are you from?
I'm Western Mass, so I'm closer to New York.
I grew up in Pittsfield.
Oh, yeah. I can't tell you on the podcast, but we'll talk later.
Okay. Are they still looking for you there? Have you been arrested? Is that why you can't?
Yeah. We don't like to tell the killer where I'm going to be. I've been dodging him for years, so.
There you go. I live in the craziest haunted area, but I think that upstate New York, that is all Revolutionary War, Civil War. I can't how many people we killed. It's just like the most insane place. I really miss California so much, but yeah.
Have you been to Lilydale?
I have not, and I'm not that far. I'm like 3 hours from there. But I used to go to all these places and do funny videos, like were paranormal funny videos. And I think I'm going to start again because there's so much up there. That's ridiculous.
There's a lot of religions that started up in upstate New York. You've got Mormonism, spiritualism started for them. Well, I mean, mediumship has started in different cultures and beliefs and everything. It's not just that, but
Modern
there
day
was the major,
spiritualism, though,
the major
started in that area.
spiritualist movement started in upstate New York
1848.
as well.
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
you were very kind to say religions because it's also the cult capital of the world.
That too.
Like Nixium was from there, which I think ended up the biggest cult, and there were a couple of others that started in upstate New York. And I don't mind that though. I want to join a cult so I don't have to pick out my own clothes anymore. I'm sick of trying to dress myself.
Well, you can be our cult. We give out purple sashes. I don't know what they're for, but you're part of it now. Welcome.
I think it's all pink, right?
Yeah. I mean, Megan's microphone was the easiest transition.
Yeah. I want to wear like what Miss Roper wears, like the muumuus, like Miss Roper.
Do you
So
know they have
fashionable.
Miss Roper Festival, Mrs. Roper Festival?
No.
No.
Yes, they have it once a year where everyone dresses up like Mrs. Roper. Look it up. It's
I
fascinating.
want to do that.
Yeah.
That'd be really awkward if you went and dressed up as Chrissy Snow at the Mrs. Roper Festival. You
Yeah.
didn't know.
That's right. I just went, my friend hosts a show out here called BattleBots, and I went yesterday and I wanted to go dressed as Sarah Connor and scare the little robots, but didn't
Oh, that would be great.
I have a question. So you went on stage and you didn't really know tarot. So was there like a lot of like interpreting the cards where you're like, sir, you got a naked baby on a horse. This is for you. Like, what was that like? Was that scary?
No, you know what? I must have known them good enough because I look at the clips now and I was pretty on. It was kind of like, I think these are just, I always laugh. There was a show called Talk Radio. And when Phil, the Phil character was quitting smoking, he said, I can't, these are my little friends. And that's how I feel about my cards. Like, I'm sure if I wanted to, I could do regular off cards, but I just love my little cards. And the funny thing was when that started out, I was doing it with my best friend. He would take the questions, and he's a very funny comedian, and then I would answer. But there was enough play, or I felt safe enough that he could pick up the slack if I needed a minute, which is the big fear in comedy. You don't want to leave that stage empty. You want to keep things moving. And now my hope is to get back to a point where we're making enough money where I can bring him back in. But, it really, I think that I read, people say that anyways, that I read very quickly. There isn't a process. But I mean, when you're reading and you're talking and you're literally thinking, who's saying this?
Yeah.
Like, who's telling this person's? And then, oh, I must be really in the
Flow.
groove because you're like, who's fucking promising all this? I don't know.
Yeah. So you're using your intuition, but the cards are a tool for your focus, right? But you're getting other information, and that's just kind of giving you a pinpoint of kind of direction or a topic too, right?
Well, I say to people, the more specific the question, the more specific the answer. Because if people, especially in the show, just come up and go, what can I expect next year? I'll give them like you can expect to go to jail. How do you look in orange? Or something like that. Because that's, that general takes a lot. But if you do, if someone says, what about my job? Then I'm really good at kind of honing in on that. And in fact, I have a new, this is my new joke, and you guys, please feel free to use it. Because I said, people always want to say, give me the lottery numbers. And I'm always like, yes, I've been driving around a 2009 Nissan Versa, just holding the lottery numbers for you, sir.
Right.
Here's some numbers for you. How about 3? That's the number of times you're going to have sex before you die. That's it. How about 1? That's how many times someone else is going to be there. That's like, I'm getting like this stack of jokes that I think psychics and mediums will love. That's kind of like, I remember seeing Sylvia Brown said, she sat down at a bar, a diner, and the guy said to her, so if you're a psychic, tell me my name. And she goes, I know your name. It's asshole. And
she was great at that.
I love to play a game with like normal people when I tell them that I'm a medium and they're like, what? And then I just look just slightly off to the shoulder. And I'm like, what? And then usually they're like, that they'll spend a good minute and it'll adjust. So yeah, it's fun sometimes to be a psychic or a medium with people.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
I
sounds
love
really
that.
ethical, Matt.
I know. It's fun at parties.
No, it's funny. I'm trying to get, I got a little projector to try and get the cards on a screen so people can see. But I'm thinking that could cause a lot of problems if people start like jumping at the Ten of Swords or the Devil card. But
Oh,
I'll yell at them. I'll say, hey, who's reading the cards? You're not reading the cards.
that's right.
I would love someday to get mediumship in it, but when I do the show, I set up like 3 rules, and one of them is no dead people, because that can get heavy really fast. And we
Right,
want to keep
exactly.
it. And I suck at it, so 2 reasons not to do it.
Yeah, I think that sometimes the dead can absolutely bring through funny things, and but yeah, it does touch on a lot of more heavy topics,
Yeah.
like death and grief and like unsaid things, or like if your dad was a piece of shit, like that apology coming through all of a sudden, it can hit you real hard, right? So
But also, I feel like with the cards, I'm like this. I can hit it this fast. I'm very rarely am I lost when I put out a layout. But with mediumship, I think it would take that extra minute. It would have to. Every once in a while in my readings, mediumship will happen, and that's great. But that's why I want to go to you guys, because I think I can get it a little faster. But I did, this whole thing is like new rule every time I go out. Because one of the first times I did it, somebody immediately raised their hand and said, "Can you, after doing 30 minutes of stand up, can you tell me about my daughter that passed away?" And it was like, ugh. And I literally kind of said, "Well, thanks for bringing the show down, but that's not what I do." And then I was like, okay, new rule. That goes into the rules. No, but
no questions about the dead.
Yeah. Because it's too heavy.
Right. For a comedy show, for sure. Yeah.
If
I've
you want to
seen
talk about
mediums.
the will.
Yeah. If you want to talk about the will, that's.
Wills are fun.
But I have seen mediums do like work at comedy show places, but just doing strictly mediumship, not for comedy's sake, but just like using the venues before. But yeah.
There's a couple out there that are. There's one tarot lady that has a comic with her. I don't know them, and I have a couple of friends in New York that we all work together sometime. My friend Jessica. So there are. I think comedians by trade are pretty intuitive, and they also are sort of like you almost, especially female comedians, to really survive in this world where you're just flying off to a foreign country and you don't know who's picking you up at the airport and all. You kind of got to be a little intuitive anyway, so goes along. But I think there's a lot. There are, I think it was Cindy
Keza.
Yes, that first moved into improvs and stuff like that. And
I've seen her
business.
The Irvine Improv, I saw her. And then I know that there's another medium, AJ Barrera, sometimes does at like comedy shows, but not comedy. Sometimes you can bring in some comedy into the beginning of the mediumship, or like in between somewhere. It's just not quite the same vibe.
Yeah, it's a different for what's going on in the showroom where it's a little roasty. That's could be
very different.
Those are my favorite. I don't know if it's my gay card, but I really love drag queens and reading. So,
That's great. I'm sitting here because I'm in Vegas. We have a flash flood warning, and I was like, wouldn't this be great if I got struck by lightning while we were doing this? Think of the views.
You know what I think that comedians are also really good at? Reading a room, right? So you're reading the energy, you're having to like build the energy, you have to like almost keep the audience. So, because the audience can turn on you like very quickly. So have you ever been heckled while you're doing tarot and comedy?
Yes. And there's I think I've been doing this 37 years. I think 24, I'm 59. So probably everything has happened on stage, and it's just what you do. You know what I mean? You just have to deal with it. Every once in a while, it doesn't happen the more you under your belt, you know how to switch up. If I'm losing their attention, I go into the crowd. If they're dirty, I throw in a couple of swear words. but you kind of get, I've had hecklers all the time. In fact, what was funny is I can't remember what I was doing. I think it was in Idaho doing the show. And I freaked out this guy because, and I don't have really good hearing, but I think there's this thing called witch hearing or like it's like clairaudient, but where I do this all the time in the airport. I'll close my eyes and I'll just listen to what, and you've learned that you can like focus on what is that guy talking about or this. So as I'm throwing the cards, a guy very quietly to his two friends goes, I don't think she knows shit. And I go, what did you say, sir? And he was like it was like only I heard it. And I think I freaked him out. So by the time I get to doing the cards, someone may be drunk and kind of loud, but they usually don't heckle because by that time it's pretty apparent who's controlling the room. It is not going to be you. You know what I mean? So I've already done a lot of crowd work and stuff. But what's a really strange thing that is new is people want to be funny. So they will try to be funny or try to ask a funny question. And I just usually let it fall flat. Like, what? They're embarrassed. Nobody else does it.
That's awkward.
I know, yes. I do it with my friend Erin, and she's like, nice try at comedy, sir, and walks away. I did have this one woman. We were doing a show in Syracuse, and the room was full, but there was a couple of seats up front. And so my friend Erin goes to this lady in the back. She goes, do you guys want to move up front? And the woman goes, oh, no. In no time at all, I'll be clucking like a chicken. And I was like, I think that's a hypnotist. I don't think you're going to be clucking like a chicken. Besides, I'm vegan. I would make you a carrot. I don't know what. Isn't that weird? I'll be right out. What?
They think it's like, what is that, Jagger, who used to hit the watermelons? What's his name?
Yes, Gallagher.
Gallagher.
Yeah. They're worried about that.
Yes. Yeah. So
that's a different kind of show.
Yeah. There's always something. That's kind of why I love it, though, is it's always off the hook. You never know. And I never know that line. I will cross it sometimes trying to see how far I can go or how insulting I can be. But it's always something new. That's why I love it.
That's fun. I like how you're mentioning that you feel like comedians are very intuitive. I honestly believe that anything that we really have to get out of our thinking mind and be in the moment with and be in some kind of flow state is intuition. It is coming from like a source of something that's flowing through us. And I think comedians, for sure, you just get into that mode and it's just like, you're just bringing stuff through. And I think obviously there's a part of that where you have to train and be prepared and understand, like you have to be naturally good at timing. You have to know how to work a crowd, like we're talking about. And that comes into like more preparing you in those kind of circumstances. But I think that like the more you do things like what you do, where you're kind of studying and doing the intuitive things and wanting to pursue that part will make you a better comedian as well.
Yes. And, I think you hit on something really like I'm not always in my body. I'm kind of a walk around, float around. Some of it is defense mechanism. Some of it is just I can't sit in the airport and do nothing all day. Yeah. But when you're on stage, and I think that's why I love doing the tarot on stage, is it's an adrenaline rush and you're never so in the moment. You're so in the moment at that time. And what is the next question? And can I kill this silence with something funny? Because most of the time, things are getting laughs that I'm not even thinking are jokes. I'm just like throwing that out there, big laugh. But it is like I said, I have trouble being in the moment, and that is the most in the moment I am. Which
makes you feel more like the most alive, right? Yeah. Like when you're in that like flow in the moment, you just feel so alive, which I love, which is why I love mediumship. Same reason.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I have to tell you guys, I don't know if you guys know this. This is a joke for my act. I want to say that so you don't have to laugh if you don't want to. But did you know ventriloquism wasn't a form of entertainment? People used to hire ventriloquists to speak for the dead at a funeral. That's where ventriloquism started. Isn't that horrible?
I feel like I heard this at one point because I've done a lot of studying about like the beginnings of mediumship and spiritualism and kind of how that all grew. That is interesting.
It is. Can you imagine leaving the funerals and everybody would be like, wow, Dad looked great. But what was with all the dick jokes? That was
Wow, he's really changed in the spirit world.
yeah. So I don't know if he's going to heaven, but it sounds like he's going to Vegas or something. But there was like, because those little dolls are so mean. But can you imagine hiring someone to speak for the dead? Like there's a voice coming from behind the box? That's terrible.
Well,
That would totally be
lost me
accurate
at
for
dick
me.
jokes. I'm sorry you lost me.
lost you or got you?
That's right.
I don't know whether I should tip.
Just the tip, Matt. Just the tip.
I just keep seeing Pinocchio sitting on a dead body.
Oh,
All
that was
all
funny.
right. Thank you.
Oh Lord, we're so morbid over here at Super Normal Podcast.
Yeah, but that goes with our business, right? We're not afraid of
Yeah,
that.
we have to be comfortable in this arena, obviously, of talking about death and being in uncomfortable spaces, right? Like if you're developing in any way, you have to get real comfortable in that sort of place. And plus, we know using humor for dark things is helpful, right? And can be really funny.
And I wonder if, I don't even know that I have a problem with it not being uncomfortable. Like I will go over the line and I had to laugh because, I'm taking care of my parents and they both have dementia. So it's not nothing here is good. It's all, trying to make them laugh or whatever. And my dad passed last year and he had a stroke. It was just like the longest, worst thing. And so we were by him the whole way. And then finally one night we go home and the hospital calls and they say to me, we're sorry your dad passed away. I was like, okay, thank you. And I stood there for a minute and I was like, I am not going to cry. I don't feel like I'm going to cry. And then I said, I wonder if I'm a sociopath. And at that moment, my sister texted me, 1 down, 1 to go.
Oh, Jesus.
And I was like, that's who we are. We don't, right?
We have, there's some dark humor there that you got to like learn how to get through life with terrible things that happen, and you learn how to laugh at situations that are really heavy and dark, and you just find ways.
Trauma. Humor is, what is it? Tragedy plus time equals comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that's cool about mediums and psychics and stuff, but especially mediums, is that like we get to experience the beautiful side of death. So we can like embrace it and find beauty in it, to laugh at it, right? To laugh with it, and not essentially, we can sympathize and empathize as well. But I think we realize that it's not the end, right? It's not it's the physical end, but it's not the soul's end. I'm just as inappropriate. I think at my great grandma's funeral, I was kicked out for laughing and telling everybody she was going to roll down the hill out of the coffin. So yeah, I mean, we all have a little bit of dark humor in us with death.
Yes. And you know what? I don't mean it, but my comedy mind starts, I think it's probably a denial thing, but when things get tense, that's when it starts. Mm-hmm. Like, I think you would know I'm not okay if there's no jokes, then it's not happening right. And I love that I'm nodding. Like I know, oh yes, we mediums. No, you mediums.
No, you're a medium too.
You're
You're developing.
A developing medium.
You're working on it. You're in progress.
Yes, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's funny that you said about like being uncomfortable and being okay with that, because you are a developing medium. So it's kind of interesting to have that conversation of like, if you're getting a no in a mediumship reading, or you're just having some difficulty, a lot of developing mediums have a struggle with that. Their ego gets hurt really bad. And it's one of the things that we work with developing mediums, of like working through getting no's and that sort of thing, because you can stand in front of a group of people that are silent if you're not talking. They might heckle you. You've got to get the audience on your side. How well is that something that you have an easier go of?
No, because I bail.
You just leave?
Well, I have, when I do, this is that what you're talking about right there is the next level for me, because it'll come up a certain amount in a tarot reading, but I'm always the first one in the reading to say, hey, this isn't really my lane. And you paid for this reading, so I don't waste your money. If you want me to try, I can. But at a certain point, I will just shut it down and go, yeah, I don't have this. So I haven't quite been to that spot yet. In fact, that's why I'm going back to see you guys.
Gotcha. No, it's an interesting thing, because it's something that, like, even in our tarot readings or whatever, even going back 3 or 4 years ago or whatever it was, when you did the reading for me, and you're like, you're going to teach mediumship. I don't know if I told you no in that moment, or if I just kind of put it in my pocket and said, But, we get told no, especially when we are doing any kind of readings for future predictions or things like that, things that we don't know.
With tarot, I will go, that's what I got. So I don't quite take it too personally. I can only remember a couple of times because I always start with a general reading, and I tell people this general reading is very general. And so sometimes they're like, I'm not sure what, and I go, wait, when we get into categories, we'll pick it. And usually through the whole thing, I'll be going, remember in the beginning when I said, so it all come together. But you guys even know about psychic amnesia, where I had it, of all people, once. A medium Red was reading, we were doing a trade-off, and she said, your friend, she's showing me you're giving her all these crystals. And in my mind, I'm like, we always give crystals. I didn't get it. And then but I knew she was a great medium. But when I hung up, I was like, oh, that was my friend Cindy, who died on my birthday. And I went to see her and brought her all my crystals. So, you have to, so in a reading, if it's like they're really not connecting, there's 2 things. Everyone is always welcome to their money back if they want to stop it. I have said to people, you know what, I'm off today. Can I reschedule you as soon as possible? That's only happened a couple of times, because usually I'm really strict about being at home and meditating and having my space correct. But I am, if I'm like looking at a tarot card combination that I know, I will just say, that's what I got. And those are always the people that are like the most fiercest return clients, are the one where you don't cave and go, well, maybe that could be, or I could be, you know what I mean? Like, you kind of got to go, this is what I have, but I have I only remember one woman, and somebody bought her a gift certificate. This one stays with me, but it makes me more angry than anything. And somebody bought her a gift certificate. And she was one of our people, but I didn't get this at the time. And you guys may know, have you ever read for someone that really wants to prove they're better than you? Or there's something, she was like, I just sit and pray all the time, and I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm so close to God. And it really, like, in this, I was struggling to kind of get something for her, when I thought I should have just sat back and absorbed kind of who she was, and because she really was just fighting me the whole way. And that one stayed with me. But you don't get that a lot. Gift certificates can be tricky because the person didn't come to you, but that one just stuck with me for a while. But you know what? All of that is learning.
Yep.
I'm going to name her like Sarah. She's probably like Sarah from The Office. And they're like, how can we piss off Sarah and give her a really interesting gift? Karen. Click. Here you go.
I know, right? Yeah. No, she was very lost and very, I could kind of hear her denial. Her life was perfect and nothing goes wrong because she was perfect and her husband was perfect. And I was like, ooh. I should have kind of.
Well, that's when you say, and why are you here?
Yeah. Or, take a different route. I think I ended up taking her a different route and asking her if she wanted some tips to be more psychic or something. And it kind of worked. But, but rarely, people usually come ready to go, So yeah, but I remember that one very specifically. But no, I think comedy has thickened my skin. Very few times do I hang up and feel, well, every once in a while you'll hang up and feel like, did I get that right? And again, those are the ones that send you the email 6 months later. I thought you were nuts. But yeah, it's I try not to take it too personal.
Yeah, you really can't. You have to take everything with equal measure when it comes down to it, because you're just the vessel for the information, right? Like, it's not really coming from you. It's just, here's the information, like you're saying, and you can't really have an attachment to it. You just have to give what you're getting with it. And
Yeah.
that's it.
And like I say, I'm trying to write a series of jokes to make mediums and psychics feel better, and I haven't nailed that one yet. But there's something about people expecting psychics to be perfect that makes me want to tear my hair out. I mean, we're better than the weatherman, I know that. But have you ever had someone like literally as close as like you said it was Tuesday and it was Wednesday, and you're like, do you have any idea how hard it is to, but that's the one. And I think psychics and mediums have been made fun of for so long that to kind of have this out of like, yeah, we're not perfect. Like, what was it one I got wrong? I can't remember. And I think it was, even I just put out a podcast with an astrologer and we were doing the election. And I won't lie. I don't have anybody against it. I'm out of the election. I'm not political, but I didn't see Kamala Harris being picked. And I put in the beginning of the podcast, it's not against her, but I didn't see that. I'm not changing the podcast because if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. We don't know what's happening, but you have to be able to go, hey, I could really be wrong on this. I don't know. I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Haven't the readings gotten pretty heavy? You remember people used to come to you and be like, it's my birthday and I just want to see what's happening. And now everyone's like, I lost my job and my marriage is breaking up, and I think it's getting real heavy.
Yeah, it's funny. I used to work at a metaphysical shop every Saturday, and every single time, like every single Saturday, sure enough, like two girlfriends would be like, oh my God, should we get one? Should we get a psychic reading? Oh my God, should we do it? Okay, let's go. And then they'd sit down like, we've never had one before. Okay. And then I would, my gift is I make people cry. It's not like, I don't, but because I get to the meat of whatever, like my thing is like I can get straight to what you need to hear, like every single time. And it was helpful. It's always helpful for what they need to hear in their life or whatever. But every time somebody's like, so for funsies, I want a reading. So every once in a while I'll go on these TikTok lives and I'll do psychic readings, and these people are like, I want a reading. I'm like, but do you? Like, I will read you for filth. I will get straight to the heart of something and everybody will see. And, but I think that's also part of our job is, if there are heavy, I think I know you just had an astrology person on, and Megan knows astrology very well. Matt and I don't at all.
I don't either. My guy's Ryan. He does great.
But we all have our people that we lean on for astrology. But, we've got a bumpy rest of the year as far as what I'm being told by the astrology people. And, it is an election year in the U.S. and there is a lot going on. And I think we are kind of all dealing with that. But I think the purpose of psychic readings or getting a tarot reading is sometimes helping us through the things that we don't want to look at, that need to come to the surface, that need to be addressed in our lives so that we can move forward in a better direction. It's not always funsy unicorn puppy tails, and it shouldn't be harmful, right?
Right.
But it should be something like it's not what you want to hear, it's what you need to hear to move forward. So those have always been my jam. Like, that's kind of just the reader I am. It's like, I'll just go in there and I don't know. I just go in there and like, that's the thing we need to pick on.
That's a great skill right now. I would say some of my readings are that, but I feel like everybody, I don't know what people expect from a reading. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if they expect you to tell them their wonderful person is coming along. But what I will usually get is like, they're like, when am I going to meet someone? And I'm like, well, this is what's in the way. But not to get too far, I can get really in the weeds. But I feel like there's this weird thing going on now where it's almost like a bunch of timelines are crossing or they're overlapping or something is going on with that. Like, I literally think we're on two timelines where one is the good Donald Trump and the other is the bad Donald Trump, and they're merging and nobody gets along because of it.
Wait, there's a good Donald Trump?
I know.
Sorry, what?
Have you seen those people that just,
I don't know.
you can't convince them? They're pitching him with the halos and stuff. And I'm like,
Oh.
I hate to, but like I said, I try to stay out of politics because I'm like third party and you got everything else is fake to me. But I do think we're in like this final, if you're gonna clear it up, this is the time to clear it up. Like, I just had like a huge overwhelming like thing happen this week where I was started, instead of focusing on like fixing, I was like, just focus on relaxing your body in a certain place. And it like unlocked all this great stuff. And sure enough, like, I'm walking around on cloud 9, like, yeah, you overcome another one. And the biggest trigger I have just literally 3 days later came up on the screen. And I was like, okay, so this is either the test, did you learn? Or it's, what are you going to do now? And I kind of failed it, but passed it. But I think everything is coming at us right now that we need to fix.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow,
If
I just got
people are-
slapped in the face there. Thanks, Karen.
It's very Pluto. I mean, it's very Pluto. It's very, we're actually at the Pluto. I think we just had recently the Pluto return for the United States as well. And yeah, there's a lot of things that keep being repeated because we're not actually changing them. We're not seeing them for what they are to change certain things. And that's why things keep getting harder, or worse, because we actually need to make changes to adjust to these things to make them better instead of just thoughts and prayers about everything, because we're in a physical body where we have to actually have physical changes happening.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I
it's
love
interesting.
listening to astrology. I could listen to astrology all day. I don't know it. It's too, like, it's such a intense, people do not
It's a lot.
realize how
No, they don't.
it is a lot.
Yeah.
This is all I know. So Donald Trump is a Gemini with Leo rising, and I am a Leo with Gemini rising. So I think I'm the anti-Donald Trump.
I'm for that. That's okay.
That's huge. You're the best anti-Donald Trump ever.
It's so funny. I think coming back to like what you were talking about, Dana, is that, as a psychic medium or as a psychic or whatever, you have to have tact, right? So our job is to say the truth. Our job is to give the information that's coming through. And if our guides or whatever, the energy is drawing us to certain things that are being uncovered for that person to help them to see that, to change something for the better, then we have to learn how to say that in a way that's going to be helpful and not necessarily, pound them into the ground with it or anything, but just like give that information. And I just want to like clarify too that if you're somebody that wants to get a psychic reading just for funsies, that's okay too. Like,
Yeah,
you
that's
don't have
the
to
best.
have
It is.
1,000 problems in your life to come to a psychic to benefit still and have something. But if you do have issues, there's typically, you're going to get more information, right? So like if you come and everything's totally good in your life, then you're just going to hear about how everything's good in your life. and you're just going to get that sort of, spit back to you. And they're like, yeah, that's true. And you're like, okay, great. That's what I'm getting because that's what's happening. If there's other issues that can come up, right, then that will come up in the reading, or it can help you make changes for your life to do something better for you. And that's part of the purpose of a psychic reading, in my opinion. But I just wanted to say that because I don't want someone to hear that and think, oh, they're going to make fun of me or think I'm bad or
No,
something like that. You know what I mean?
No, I think a good reader
Yeah.
will hold space. To your point, Megan, I think a good reader will deliver whatever needs to be said in a good way, in a sensitive way.
Tactful way.
But
Yeah.
also,
You called me a bitch in my last reading. No, just kidding. She
oh
didn't.
yeah, but that was you.
I thought that's just her name. I'm just
Yeah.
No, it was little bitch.
The bitch. That's what she did.
But also hold a safe space for healing to happen.
Yes.
And it's not just like saying, okay, bye, see ya. It's it's knowing the space and knowing where somebody's at when we're giving somebody a reading, and not just being like punch, punch, punch. Like that's not helpful either.
Yeah. Yeah. If you, I'm always amazed when people do make appointments off of TikTok, because that's not really what your appointment's going to be. It'll be fun, but it's not going to be like that.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of clients whose therapists will say it's time for you to see your psychic, because I think we can say what they can't say, and they know we'll say it in a nice way. But yeah, even you know, I always remember my teacher very specifically, like, you have to be very careful with your words with pregnant ladies or with people wanting to have kids. That is always a tough one. And you know, you always do the best you can, but you try to be encouraging. If it's looking negative, I go with, what can we change to make this work? Because you can't, that's the touchiest. And she was always like, you don't want to plant that seed of any negativity at all.
Exactly. Yeah. Any health things, that's very touchy. There's definitely some ethical concerns you always have to have when you're a reader in any way, and understand your impact, and also know where your level of expertise ends and where you need to say, okay, this is time to go look to a doctor. This is time to go to a therapist. This is time for whatever. And some people try to sort of be the one for everything. And unless you have, you know, an actual medical degree or license as a therapist, you know, that's not your place to be doing that.
Yeah, yeah. You can get what you get on the card. You know, there's a therapist named, she wrote a book, and her name's Jessica Dorr. And she, she had a online class that I bought, and I still can't believe I lost the papers from it. But she it was like the therapy in the cards, like what disorders went with what cards. And it was great. And she doesn't have it up anymore. But, yeah, she was a real therapist. But we are kind of doing therapy, you know?
Yeah, it's like a form of, or like I would say an additional or like adjacent to, right? Because there's, you know, obviously actual degrees that people have to have for certain kinds of therapy, but now there's so many different kinds of therapies that you can learn or have benefit from, and, you know, backdoor kind of ways into the psyche, into understanding, into help. And so I think for sure there's like, we're like an adjacent to and still beneficial, but then there's like other things we can't really necessarily get into in the same kind of way during a reading as you could in like a therapy appointment. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. You can kind of dig it up. There's you know, it's funny because I'm very much if anyone's taken my class, I'm very much exactly what the cards are about. Exactly. This color means this. I'm a Rider Waite girl. That's it. That's all I do. And then what happens is, as I get into my readings, I have that if I'm off, but it's more the, you know, the whole, then where the intuitive part comes in, and I kind of do the story, and then I can go down and go, okay, this is going to have this. But if I ever get my stuff together, I'm really trying to, there's a lot of great information about profession. Like I'd like, you know, where you can go, because people always ask me, what should I be doing? And sometimes I can nail it like this. And it's never like out of the blue. They're always like, well, that's what I have a degree in. I can't believe you said that, or something like that. But I think health is the one where I've really been studying on it. And because I'm not even good with anatomy, but I think there's a good, I give the general overall, and then I really want to learn to be able to like nail it down to body parts or what this combination means, and then I can do that general part. But I think those are the ones that people really, like you said, you have to be careful, and you have to kind of stay, you know, my thought is always, how do we get you to the healthiest no matter what's going on? How do we get you to this particular spot?
Totally agree. Yeah, because like I do get health things, right? Like I'll get things in my body, or they'll give information that would be helpful to them that may come from a slightly different direction to help. But I'll always be like, okay, you know, just go get this validated by a doctor, by a professional, go check this out, or whatever is kind of coming up. So yeah, it's like a bit tricky.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a disclaimer. They always sign a disclaimer when they make the appointment, but you know, we are doing the best we can.
I have a question. So, like, I'm one of those readers. I don't read tarot a lot. My tarot's like to me, it's fun. It's off to the side. But when I first started reading tarot, I would always like, you'd be my client and I'd sit down and I'd always go, oh, like I'd make the noises and looking at the cards being like, oh. What are some mistakes that you've learned while reading tarot that you're like, don't do that? That's not good. Because you can imagine the client being like, oh, what'd you see?
Yes, I have had that happen. That's why I'm kind of afraid to put the cards on stage at a show. I mean, we'll see what happens, but yeah, and sometimes I will go, I do that same thing. I'll go, and then they'll be like, what? Because all my readings are over the phone. I really don't do any in person anymore, which I think is better because you have no input, no one's making faces, no one's, you have nothing to go on. And I think that you get a stronger read. But yeah, I do the same things. But you know what I say all the time is I go to say, okay, this is going to sound weird. And then I go, you're at a tarot reader. This is all going to be weird. What do you know what I mean? But yeah, I do. I've learned to just be quiet. Or another good one, if the layout, especially with a health layout, I like to, sometimes I'll start at the end. Like, okay, this is all going to be fine. You have this card, which means you're going to be fine. And then go back and sweep it around. But yeah, I have said those things. Scared people.
I have a recommendation for you. So I know you want to do the projector thing, but have you seen the animated tarot?
Is that a book?
No. I bought these animated tarot. They literally move. So you could do that on the projector, and you can literally, like, if they get lost, you can just be like, you're just a kinky bitch in the night. You know what I mean? Like, you can have fun with the cards, but they're animated. So I think that might, like, keep the audience enthralled because they got something to look at. So just an option.
That's a great idea. This deck that I have here, this is because I have a Patreon. This deck is plastic, which so that it doesn't reflect on the screen. It shows a flat, but they are slippery as anything. So they're always flying all over the place. So that would be an interesting one to look at. Yeah, something like that. Or do an oracle one. Or get one that's really dark and scary.
Ooh.
But this one, like, I don't remember who. I think I used to do this Halloween party for this guy in Irvine, and I can't. One day I got there, he bought me 5 decks. Like, he was so wealthy, it was ridiculous. And I was like, I have my deck, and he's like, I bought you 5 more.
Wow.
And somebody spilled drinks on like all. I literally have baskets of decks that, like, if I lose one out of this, I got another one. But I used to have people come into the show and they'd all pull a card and they'd all get an old card. That was kind of fun. But that's a really good idea. We'll see, technically, like people always put in the comments, I want to see the cards you're looking at. It is a little bit of a technical nightmare to try and get. I can't even explain it to you. They used to have a pocket projector. I'm doing a theater in New Jersey and I'm trying to get it all up by then, but it's such a bunch of stuff to carry, and I got to get a new camera, blah, 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 because everything now is about getting it online and getting the clips up, which is another, we have jobs within jobs.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a great idea.
Just remember, if all else fails, Karen, shadow puppets.
Yeah. Well, I just have this nightmare that some young girl is going to ask me about her wedding and the tower card's going to come up or something that they're going to see that I can't quite joke away. You know what I mean?
Just tell her she's a princess.
I am too. I'm thinking about the tower, and I'm thinking about that just means something sudden could change. It doesn't necessarily mean like the wedding's off or anything. It just means like maybe there's a surprise that comes that is really positive, depending on the card that follows that.
And if you get the 2 of Pentacles, you're like, well, are you sure you're the only one who's going to marry? Are you sure?
That's when you go, we're going to skip that one.
And then next is the 5 of Cups.
Who else has a question?
I did read for somebody and the tower card came up and I was like, are you sure about this location? And it was the location. They had to move the date because of the location. So it was helpful in that one. But you don't want someone jumping to a conclusion when they don't know. Like, one of my favorite cards is the 10 of Swords, because it means you're going to get up. Here we go. But people see all the swords in the back and they freak out. And it's like, that's not the one you want to be afraid of.
I love the Death card. The Death card is my favorite card in all of the tarot, but you see the Death card come up like, I'm going to die. No, you're not dying. It's good.
Rebirth.
It's a good card. It's a good card.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a card I don't like after all these years. Maybe I do. I don't know.
5 of Swords.
I think The most horrifying card to me is the Lovers. You know?
Yeah, you're a commit folk like me.
Yeah. I dodge and run, Karen. I dodge and run. Isn't that right, Barb? She does.
You know, people don't believe me, but I don't ever want to live with someone. And I feel like we're getting more empathetic and more intuitive. And someone in my space, if you're not already married, it's going to be hard to have someone in your space.
Mm-hmm.
Or me, maybe. Me and Matt.
Yeah.
Me and Matt are going to buy a duplex.
Yeah, I'll just see you
but
on the
not
other
in the
side
same
of the house.
One,
Well, you just have to make sure that you're really compatible and also that you're able to make adjustments when needed. But like there has to be like extreme compatibility as far as like how you live, right? Like if you're super messy and they're very, very clean, that's probably not going to work that well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
So don't live with
So-
Dana because she likes to tuck her tape in a little box and then tuck it in at night in her desk drawer.
whatever. I have a very organized desk drawer.
Yes,
It's fine.
She does. The paper store loves her.
Well, you know, it's funny. I buy all the things from TikTok. So at night I got
Me
like
too.
a tape, and then my mouth is taped, and then I got a satin hat, and I look like I
Oh.
fell asleep at a fraternity.
Do you have tape talks?
Which
Using
one?
tape talks? Tape talks? The
Oh,
tape with the face?
You know, I bought some
Tape?
the mouth tape.
Yeah. Oh, you got the to close your mouth at night to keep it
I
closed.
didn't get that one. I can't quite get on board. That seems a little. That one I.
Oh, I don't have that
try.
one.
That sounds
Yeah.
kinky.
Hey, Megan,
Yeah,
are you
yeah,
afraid to
I'm
swallow
scared.
spiders?
I mean, yes, I am. But no, I use the Tape Talks ones from TikTok. And they have it on Amazon too, but you tape because you know how when you sleep on your side, as you start aging, you start getting weird wrinkles just from sleeping on your side. But when you tape your face, then your face doesn't do that anymore. And it helps. It really does.
Yeah, I have a lot. I have the one that goes here, and sometimes
Yeah.
I do this one, and then sometimes I just go to sleep. But you know, it's funny because I don't really know where I'm going. And when I moved from LA to New York to take care of my parents, I got rid of everything. If it didn't fit in the car, it didn't go. And I moved into a furnished place, which is not really a great, like, for empathy, you know, it's been a journey, I will tell you that. When I get out of there, I mean, I had bats, and they were like, just open the window and turn off the light. And I was like, no, they're bats flying at my face. I've had everything. I've been walked in a room and the picture flies off the wall and just crazy stuff. But somebody said, I love this saying, because I don't know when I can go. Depends on like if my mom, how bad she gets, or if anything happens, or if she passes between there. But it's funny to just have just enough to fit in the car. Like now I'm committophobe about like, do I even want to buy those shoes? But somebody said on TikTok, I really love TikTok. Somebody said, if you don't know where you're going, that's when you're most in tune with the universe because you're just being led.
Right.
And that's what I feel like is happening. I went to, I have all this work in Florida in January, and I was like, okay, I better get the planes out of Albany just in case. And the tickets were $700 each way. And I was like, what? And it was spring break. So everybody had bought all the tickets. So I called my friend in North Carolina that always said I could rent a room. And I was like, February, I'm renting a room. And so that's how I am. February, I'll be in North Carolina, you know? So I'm kind of like, whatever happens next, happens next. But I am like Dana. I like to know where everything is. And now I've moved 3 times in the last year and I don't know where any of my shit is. So it's hard to let go. And then I'm like, what if someone else's shit is in here? I don't want that.
Yeah. Other people's shit bothers me. Yeah.
But you've been married for a while. So
for a long time.
Yeah, you got it down. You got the rhythm down. I can't imagine. I want a really handsome Middle Eastern guy across the street. That's my guy. And then he comes to my house and then he goes home.
Do you just sit on the
works.
porch and you're just like with your folders? You're just
You
like
put the red light on and you're like,
I just levitate some hummus. Come on over.
Karen has a type.
Yes, I do.
She said, I want your kebab.
Yeah. I love the beards.
Sexy.
Yeah. Yep.
you have a thing
And
for
they all,
beards.
did you know all men's beards smell the same when you light them on fire? Little tip.
Are you speaking from experience? How many states are you wanted in? I just need to know.
That's right.
Fun facts with Karen.
Yes. My show is very violent. It's clean, but it's very violent.
Well, just make sure if you have a beard and you go to Karen's shows. So you do have shows coming though. Like you've got shows in October, and of course you said in January in Florida. But tell us what you've got coming up.
Yes, I am so thrilled. My friend always jokes that she said, you've had that, like she says, I'm standing with the Jiffy Pop. I've been standing on the stove trying to cook, and it's finally popped. So there's a big show I have in Pittman, New Jersey. That's 1,000 Theater. It's starting. It's almost full. Get your tickets.
Awesome.
I would love to sell that out. That the 11th, Emus, Pennsylvania, and Ardmore, Pennsylvania. All those are at comiccure.com. I'm sorry, I'll do these fast because no one wants to listen to this. October 17th to the 19th, One Night Stands in Waterford, Detroit. November 2nd, aka in Cortland, and December 13th, Springdale, Arkansas, the Jones Center. So these are all psychic stand-up shows. I'd love to see everybody there.
And you do
awesome.
private readings.
Yes, I do. They can do all that from my website, which is psychicstandup.com or Rontowski.com. So KarenRontowski.com, the original. You can't miss, if you can spell Rontowski, even if you just get to RONT, I come up. A lot of us.
Thanks, Google. And also you have Paranormal Karen as your podcast, and you put out an episode pretty much every single week.
I switched it to every other week. I have a Patreon for people that want to learn tarot. You can get like an energy read that comes out every week, or I have a class every Thursday. They're about 10 minutes long. They're a quick, like, this is what you do for this situation or stuff like that. The Patreon I love. I do have a tarot class if you want to buy that. That's a big class. Email me. I'll give you a 50% coupon. And and I'm going to start doing my funny Paranormal Karen haunted videos back again too. So,
Ooh.
And what's your tag on TikTok and like social media?
Everything is at Rontowski. Make sure it's me. I have the blue check. I don't know why I can't get the blue check on TikTok, but that's got 100,000 followers. So that's the one. The people with 4 and 5, that's not me. And if there's an email approaching you about a reading, remember, I don't speak broken English. It doesn't suddenly go to broken English when I type to you, because they're getting these. They're sending me there. They're like, "You reading now?" And it's like, no, it's not me. I'll never approach you for a reading. So yeah,
Yes.
everything is at Rontowski.
And if you've gone to the page with a guy with a beard on fire, you went too far, and don't call the cops. So
That's right.
she'll never reach out to you.
It wasn't that Karen that did that
No.
this
No,
time.
another one.
That was Joan. Joan Ronkowski.
Right.
Two different people.
There's only one other Rontowski I've ever found, and I think he was a runner in Poland, and I took all his social media.
Ha ha.
Yes, it's not that funny.
I wanted to make a joke about him trying to catch you, but he probably could.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We really appreciate you so much. Dina, did I just try to end this again too soon?
No, you did
Okay.
a really good job.
All right. I saw Megan's the look of, yeah, go for it, Megan.
Should we also just say that we are going to be getting readings, each of us, from Karen for Patreon?
Yes.
If you guys are wanting to see what those readings are, you should go to the Patreon. Dana, take it away.
Yes. So go to the link in our bio, join our Patreon. It's very, very little money, and it helps us pay for the editing, to host our Patreon, all of that. But we love you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Share this with your mom, with your grandma, with your bearded friend, Jack. And if he has a kebab and likes hummus, send him Karen's way.
Yeah, except not too close. Far
Not
enough,
Yeah.
but not too close.
No
Separate
open
buildings, but no open flames.
All right.
Exactly.
We love
Thanks
you
for
guys.
See you
listening.
guys next time. Bye.
Bye.